Hello, this is Mario Farina. Today I'll be reading a story to you called First Date on a Windy Day. Here is the picture that appears at the front of the story. It's available in Smashwords, www.smashwords.com. It's free, and you can download it and read it for free. There are other stories there that you can do the same thing with. A first date on a windy day. Matthew Grims studied his image in the mirror as he adjusted his hairpiece. He was only 38, but he had begun losing his hair 15 years earlier. There was plenty of hair along the sides and back, but very little on top. The piece had restored the light brown hair to his head and 10 years of youth to his appearance. And now he was in love. He had met Glenda Robinson at Ridgewood College and had been smitten as never before. She was the new secretary in the humanities department. As assistant professor of English, Matthew had occasions to see and speak to Glenda at several occasions during the week. Ms. Robinson, I need this outline typed before the staff meeting this afternoon. Would you see if you can fit it into his schedule? He said. She turned her blue eyes toward him in a way that he found most disconcerting. I'll try, Professor Grims. Isn't this the same outline that you gave me yesterday and the day before? Well, as a matter of fact, it is, but you'll note that I've made some changes. I know this is an imposition, but would you mind? No problem at all, Professor. I'm sure I can get it done. Matthew walked back to his office. He wasn't making much progress in getting to know Glenda better. A more direct approach was needed. He knew where Glenda went for lunch. He thought that an accidental meeting at the Busy Bee cafeteria would help break the ice. At lunchtime the following day, Matthew caught a glimpse of Glenda's trim figure as she put the cover on the typewriter and strode out the door. It was a beautiful sunny day in early September. Matthew decided that lunch at the Busy Bee today would be a good idea. Oh, hello, Glenda, Matthew ventured as he carried his tray to the table where she was sitting. Do you mind if I sit with you? Oh, no, Professor. I'd be glad to have company. Matthew gazed at Glenda's attractive face, and his stomach turned tumbling like a clothes dryer. He hoped that his emotions wouldn't betray him. People had frequently told him that he wore his heart on his sleeve, whatever that meant. They chatted as they dined. During the conversation, Matthew discovered that Glenda was 31 and a recent graduate of Smith Business College. She was trained in secretarial work, but hoped that someday she might go back to school and become a physical therapist. He also discovered two facts that were of great interest to him. Brenda was not married and had no boyfriend. Also exciting was the fact that she was interested in sports cars. What a coincidence, exclaimed Matthew. I've been a sports car fan since I was a kid. As a matter of fact, I was planning on picking one up this weekend. Maybe you'd like to take a ride with me after I do this. The truth wasn't quite that. Matthew was a sports car fan, true, and had been for many years, but he had trouble fitting his tall, lanky frame into one. Though he had admired them from afar, he had never actually yearned to own one. Living in an apartment very close to the college, he didn't feel the need for a car, but here was his chance to form a closer relationship with the girl of his dreams. He needed to own a sports car now. Matthew couldn't afford a new car, so he decided to visit Mark's used cars on Saturday. There he spotted a vintage Ford convertible that glistened in black. He walked closer to get a good look. Mark Baldwin, a heavy-set, middle-aged man with dark hair and mustache to match, exited from the sales office on the lot and approached the young man. "I see you're looking at this beautiful roadster," he declared. Matthew felt that this car was for him, but he wasn't going to make it easy for the salesman. "Oh, I don't know," he muttered. "Looks a little dated to me. Real old. What are you asking?" $1,200, Mark responded. "Maybe it's a little much for an old car, but people have begun noticing cars like this. This car may be worth something in a few years. But if you're serious, you can probably buy the car for a little less." "I gotta make a sale today or fall behind for the month. I can knock off 200, but that's only for today." "How does she run?" "Like a charm. Here, take the keys. Take a spin around the block. See if you can keep the girls away." Matthew accepted the offer and struggled to get into the car. It was a tight squeeze. He started the engine, but didn't bother with the test drive. "What are your finance terms and how soon can I take possession?" he asked. "If you check out, you can pick her up this afternoon. I'll finance the car for you personally. You'll have the rest of the year to pay." Done. For the first time in his life, Matthew was on his way to becoming the owner of a sports car. Well, it wasn't a Jaguar or an Austin Healey, but it was a convertible, and that qualified as being a sports car, he reasoned. The afternoon was sunny and warm, but a little windy. Matthew walked to Mark's lot from his apartment and rushed through the mandatory paper signing formalities. The top was still down. He opened the door and somehow squeezed himself into the driver's seat. There was barely adequate leg room inside. The trick was getting in. Matthew put the car into first gear and drove off the lot. Shifting into second and third, he turned down right onto Washington Boulevard. He planned on revving up the Ford to see how it accelerated. He mashed down on the foot pedal and the car leapt forward. Exhilarated, he watched as the speedometer hit 20, then 30 miles per hour. Everything was going fine so far. Suddenly, Matthew's hairpiece gave an early warning that it was about to become dislodged. Frantically grasping at it, Matthew caught the hank of hair just as it was about to sail from his head. He kept his hand on it while he made a hasty stop at the side of the road. He spent several minutes evaluating the situation. Matthew had purchased his first hairpiece a long time ago. Over the years, he had replaced them as they wore out or became outmoded. The store-bought product had never given him a problem. That is, until today. Maybe more tape is what I need, Matthew thought. The tape he used came in strips that were sticky on both sides. Several strips on the inside surface of the hairpiece allowed the hair to stick securely to his head. His hairpieces had never restricted him in any way or with anything he wanted to do. He had even swum with them. Today, the turbulence of the air surging through the car was more than the tapes could handle. Matthew drove home slowly and went into the bathroom. He removed his hairpiece and examined its inner surface. There simply wasn't room for more tape. He wanted to find another way to keep the hair on. It simply wouldn't do to have the hairpiece fly off his head on his first date with Glenda. Piloting the sports car to the nearby Greb's department store, Matthew purchased a black and red plaid sports cap. He placed it on his head over the hairpiece and turned his vehicle onto the nearest wide street. At 20, then 30 miles per hour, there was no difficulty, but when the car hit 35, his cap flew off, and the hairpiece kept it company. This time, there had been no warning. Screeching to a halt, Matthew exited from the car and walked to where the two items were lying side by side, not more than a few feet apart. Several children who had been playing nearby stared at him with a mixture of amazement and amusement. Matthew ignored them as he picked up both items and walked back to his car. Folding himself into the seat, he put the hairpiece and cap into the car's tiny glove compartment and drove off bareheaded. He went back to the department store and parked. He retrieved the hairpiece from the glove compartment. Ducking as low as he could in the car's cockpit, he positioned the hair on his head and tamped it down. Then he straightened up and adjusted it using the car's small dash-mounted rear-view mirror. He then gave it a final tamping. Inside the store, Matthew purchased a parka. He put it on, loosened the hood, and placed it over his head. He eased the car onto the street. His hair stayed in place, but when Matthew began to perspire profusely, he realized that this was not a practical solution to the problem. He tried several other ideas that day and the next, but nothing worked. Having found no solution to the flying hairpiece problem, Matthew dreaded the arrival of Monday. He felt that his romance with Glenda was not only going to end, but do so ignominiously. "Did you get your new car over the weekend?" Glenda asked Monday when she saw Matthew. "Well, yes, I guess so," he responded. "You sound a little dubious," she observed. "Don't you know?" "Well, I did get a nice black Ford Roadster, but I didn't drive it much." "Oh, that's too bad. Why was that? Do you have it with you?" "Well, yes, I guess so." "You're sounding awfully unsure of yourself, Professor. I'd love to see the car over lunch and have a ride in it." "Are you sure you want to, Glenda? It's a convertible, and it's a windy day today." "I love convertibles. The wind won't bother me. Is it a date? My treat." At noontime, Glenda and Matthew walked to the school's parking lot. When she caught sight of the shiny black vehicle, she squealed with delight. She ran to it and waited patiently for Matthew to catch up. "Oh, it's such a beautiful car, and it's such a lovely day," Glenda gushed. "Here, let me help you put the top down." "Isn't it a bit chilly for you? Don't you think it might rain?" "Nonsense, it's warm. There isn't a cloud in the sky, and the wind isn't bad. Besides, what's a sports car for, unless the top is down?" The top came down and was stowed neatly in the compartment behind the front seats. Then Matthew opened the passenger's door and helped Glenda enter. "The way to get into a sports car is this," he proclaimed. "You sit in the seat, then swing your legs in." "I know how to do it," she replied impatiently. "I'm a sports car fan, remember?" Matthew got behind the wheel, started the engine, and drove off. "Let's get on to Madison Avenue," Glenda urged. "The traffic is lighter there, and we can go faster." "You know, you and I are not supposed to drive a new car very fast for the first few thousand miles," he said. "Professor Grims, this car has over 40,000 miles on it. It was broken in a long time ago." "Yes, but the police." "The speed limit on this road is 45. Hurry, I can't wait until I feel the wind blowing through my hair." "Do you like wind blowing through your hair, Professor?" Oh, yes, yeah, yes, of course I do. Wait a minute. Matthew stopped the car, exited, and opened the trunk. He pulled out his parka and put it on his head, the hood covering it. Professor Grims, what are you doing? It's so warm out. You can't get the sports car feel when you're all bundled up that way. I guess you're right, Glenda. Matthew put the coat back in the luggage compartment and re-entered the vehicle. He reached into the glove compartment, pulled out the plaid cap and positioned it carefully on his head. That's a beautiful cap, Professor, commented Glenda. The black in it matches the car's color perfectly. Keeping the speed of the car below 35, Matthew made his way to Madison Avenue. There he began to increase the speed gradually. He placed his hand on top of his cap, pressing it downward. Glenda laughed. You look so funny, Professor Grims. Are you afraid you're going to lose your cap? Well, it's expensive, Matthew protested. Does it bother you if I hold on to it? No, not at all, she smiled. When we get back, if you'll let me, I'll see if I can make the headband a little more snug so that you won't have to hold it all the time. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Downshift into second, Professor. I want to hear the sound of the engine as it revs up. Downshift into second? Sure, she grinned. You know, with the shift lever. But I would have to use my right hand. I'm holding onto the cap with that hand. Wait a minute. Maybe I can hold it with my left hand, then let go of the steering wheel for a second, then do the shift. This complex set of actions required Matthew to remove his hand from his head for a second. That's all it took. The hat flew away and took the hairpiece with it. From the rear view mirror, Matthew could see both items landing in the street some 100 feet to the rear. He slammed down the brakes. Glenda gaped at him in amazement. After he had brought the car to a standstill, Matthew mumbled, "Wait here," and exited from the car. With hands deep in his pockets, he sauntered to where the cap and hairpiece were lying. He was gone for about 5 minutes. When he returned to the car, Glenda was staring at him, enraptured. "Oh, Professor Grimm," she observed, "you're not a kid. You're not like one of those young juveniles they have at the colleges posing as intellectuals. You look so distinguished. Why do you wear that silly thing? The way you look, I find you look very handsome." You like me this way?" Matthew stammered incredulously. "Oh, yes, I do. Would you do me a favor? Wear that thing in class if you want to, but when you're with me, would you keep it off your head? I like you so much better without it." She laughed. "Then, too, when you're driving the car, you won't have to worry about losing your hair anymore." "It's not important to you that I don't have hair on my head?" "Oh, Professor, it's not what's on a man's head that's important," she responded. "It's what's inside that counts." Thank you for looking. Thank you for listening. Hope you liked the story. Tomorrow I'll have another story for you. Bye-bye.